Hey everyone, thank you for stopping by. If you're new, welcome. If not, welcome back and happy Fibro Friday. I hope you had a great week and took great care of yourselves. And if not, I hope that the weekend is better for you. So today's video is a special request from Kenya Alexander. She posed an excellent question about stretching and exercise. Thank you for asking the question. Thank you for interacting. I so appreciate it. Thank you for all of you who interact for sure. I appreciate you all. But Kenya, thank you for giving me this question because I love being able to discuss these things from my perspective and from my experience because I found that some of the videos that I've seen describing this aren't very helpful. So I try to make mine a little more helpful and a little more workable for people as they are going through their respective journeys with chronic pain and or fibromyalgia. So the question was about stretching and exercise. Stretching is a must if you have fibromyalgia. It is so important to do. It's really important to work a body that's in chronic pain, but not work it too much, which is the fine balance that most people with chronic pain struggle with. They want to do more because they want to kind of catch up on the things they've missed when they've been in a flare or when they've been tired. So they want to do more, but they end up overdoing it and hurting their bodies even more than they had anticipated. So that's the difficult thing about that. So there are pros and cons to stretching and working out when you have fibromyalgia. And you're thinking, how could there be a con to something that's good for you? There's a con to everything, I assure you. So, one of the pros of stretching and working out is that movement helps to reduce pain, especially if your pain is associated with stiffness and with inactivity. A little bit of movement can go a long ways with that, especially like in the case of a body that tends to be stiff when waking up or when in motion or not in motion, when still for quite a period of time. A little bit of movement can help. It can help reduce the pain that you're feeling from stiffness, but also prevent more pain if you can keep a comfortable pace. Now, one of the things I noticed when I got sick over the summer with the flu, I was only really kind of sick, like officially sick, for 4 or 5 days. Like I was fine after about a week. However, just that fast, I deconditioned. I could not walk anywhere near the amount of steps that I was walking before I got sick. Like my number of steps went from 100% to like 10% of what I was doing before. And it was killing me because I was used to moving at a certain amount. And then all of a sudden I couldn't just because I hadn't felt well for a week. So that's the thing you have to keep in mind when we're talking about some movement. Some movement prevents you from going into a deconditioned state. Some movement keeps you from being so stiff that it's uncomfortable to do anything. It's not always easy, especially day to day. If you are experiencing pain, it's not easy to keep up some sort of activity, but if you could do something, it is indeed better than nothing. I'll have some resources in a few moments too for those who are trying to figure out how to make that happen. So, another pro is that you get an increased range of motion and flexibility, and that makes a huge difference with quality of life. If you are not stretching that much, what you'll find is that it hurts more to do the things that you need to do, like perhaps bending over to tie your shoes or to pick something up off of the floor if you drop something, reaching for something from a high shelf, putting on a shirt, buttoning things or clasping a necklace behind your head, or if you're smart, you clasp it in front of your face. Like you don't have to clasp it back here, but you know what I mean. Certain movements that require your arms or your legs and knees, these things are impacted when you don't stretch regularly. So stretching can help a lot with improving those things so that you're able to be more independent longer. It's very similar to how when people get older and arthritis becomes an issue, they find it very hard to do anything for themselves because their bodies really don't cooperate with their desires. Their bodies do not bend and move the way that they need them to. So even though fibromyalgia and many types of chronic pain are not like arthritis. You do not want to get to a place where you have limited life abilities, limited function in your limbs because of a lack of movement. Again, this is not a blame video because, of course, you do what you can reasonably do at any point. But if you are able to stretch some, a little bit of stretching can eventually compound to get you to the point where you have full range of motion again, which is always the goal. Another pro is that you get better sleep when you do some movement, some exercise, some stretching. You will sleep better, especially if you time it for a time of day that you are not creating overwhelm for yourself. So, if you are stretching or doing a lot of exercise at the top of the day, that can set you up to be really exhausted by the end of the day, and your sleep may not be that good, even though you're tired, and doing too much at the end of the day can overstimulate you. And so you have to find a fine balance with that. I did a video um, discussing some of those things, and I'll put that here for you. But yeah, it's a balance with that for sure. I'm going to jump to a couple of cons, and then I'll jump to some more pros, okay? So, some of the cons of movement is, of course, it can make you tired if you overdo it. It's so easy to overdo it when you have a chronic pain body because the moment you feel a little bit okay, you're ready to conquer the world. Don't do it. Don't pace yourself. Pace yourself. Do not overload your day with any kind of movement simply because you feel a little better. You're going to cause yourself more damage in the end. Another con to keep in mind is that it can be uncomfortable when you first start doing it. That's a con. If you aren't in the habit, it is hard to start a habit. Pace yourself, do what you got to do, but be okay with a little bit of discomfort. That's normal, but it is a con. It's certainly not a pro to be uncomfortable. And if you overdo or you start and go far too hard, another con is that you can trigger a flare because it's very easy to go into a flare state when you are overstimulated. So please, please be careful, okay? Another con is finding an appropriate level of movement can be tricky. It can be very tricky, especially if you're going from no movement to more movement of some flavor. So, if you're someone that is resting a ton, you want to not decide you're going to do a 5K in 2 weeks. Okay. That's just not it. If you are experiencing chronic pain, you cannot overdo it. And finding a balance might be tricky too, because some of the guides that you're given are for people who do not experience chronic pain, and so they're starting from a pain free standpoint. So when someone says, oh, you want to, eventually be able to run a 5K, well, day one, go ahead and, lightly jog around your neighborhood. That may not be accessible to someone who is barely able to get out of bed and walk to their mailbox. So please know that your level of introductory activity is not necessarily equal to someone who does not have chronic pain. Okay. Now let's go back to some more pros. Okay. You will have a better mood if you move more. That is a big thing. What I find is that being still for too long and not moving the body enough and not having a slight distraction from the pain in the form of movement of some sort can really put a damper on my spirits. So, a little bit of movement is a brief break from thinking about your pain. Yes, you're thinking about your pain, but you're thinking about it through a different lens. You're not thinking about your pain purely through the standpoint of disappointment from not moving at all. Now you're thinking perhaps of the fact that you are in pain from movement, but it's taking your eyes off of the more negative side of the pain, the more depressed aspect of experiencing pain. So it's good, even if it's uncomfortable, it's still good to do a little bit of exercise or a little bit of stretching, a little bit of movement. Takes your mind off of some of the sadness that can come with chronic illness and chronic pain and fibromyalgia. Another pro is reduce stress levels. If you are feeling stressed about a lack of movement, a little bit of movement will resolve that. Just a little bit. No one says you have to run the 5K. A little bit of movement can reduce the stress that comes from feeling like you are too inactive. It's also good for moving the stress through the body because stress, even though it isn't intangible, it has a kind of weight on the body. Some movement can help shift it. You'll find many people will give you that, oh, I felt horrible today and I went to the gym and now I feel amazing. I'm not telling you you're going to turn into one of those people overnight. You won't. More than likely, you won't. But a little bit of movement can do a lot for relieving the guilt of not moving at all. If you get up and you do one stretch to your knees, to your toes, and you stand up, and that's more than what you did yesterday, then you can check off your list the movement aspect, and you can feel less guilt because you have done something today. But also, once you get into the routine of moving the body, you'll find that it's a wonderful way to relieve any other type of stress that you may be experiencing. And the final thing, increase energy levels. One thing I notice is that the less active I am, the less energy I have. I really don't store up energy by being still. I have to use a bit to have some, use or lose. That's pretty much the idea with movement. So if you do a little bit of movement, you will get some pretty good results over time. And be okay with a bit of a cumulative effect. If it doesn't all come at once, that's fine. You don't have to feel amazing the very first time that you do some movement, but give yourself a little time and build on it, and you'll probably notice a huge difference. Now, resources. You want to start slow and pace yourself. There are some fabulous people on YouTube who have YouTube videos, of course, they're here. They have videos featuring fibromyalgia specific routines, as well as brief routines, bed yoga routines, just an assortment. So, my favorite, my go to, especially during the wintertime when my motivation is low and my aches are high, yoga with Bird. It might be yoga by Bird. I always say one or the other. Bird's yoga. I'll put a video to my favorite routine here. Okay. Yoga with Bird, fantastic. You can do 5, 10, 15, 20-minute routines. Many of them that she lists are bed routines, so you don't even have to get out of bed to get your stretches in. And she's very encouraging with modifying your movements for relief. The next one is Shima Flow Yoga. And actually, Shima Flow Yoga was the very first yoga instructor that I worked with as far as YouTube videos, right? So I watched her video. I couldn't do all the movements the first time, but I kept doing it. She felt very encouraging as she's describing the movements you do. It was fantastic. And all of these videos will also be in the description box for your convenience. So you can go through basically my personal yoga playlist. So that was the next one, Santosha Spirit. Santosha Spirit was great because she actually has fibromyalgia. So she understands the condition firsthand. And I think she's a great spot to go once you have started doing a few things. But also, she's very good about describing, modifying your movements, just like the others that I mentioned. Yoga with Bird does that. Shima Flow does that as well. They modify their movements. And the last one is Yoga with Joelle. Joelle has a fibromyalgia series, just like Shima Flow Yoga does. So you can watch those specific series if you want to know how to do movements that are tailored to a body in chronic pain that might be experiencing some muscle stiffness and soreness. So that is it. I had to look at my list. That is it for my thoughts on stretching and working out when you have fibromyalgia. My advice always: start low and slow. Don't feel like you have to hit the gym hard. You do not ever have to hit the gym hard. All you have to do is start moving your body in small increments. Try 5 minutes of yoga in bed. You don't even have to get out of bed. Try 5 minutes of yoga in bed. If 5 minutes is too much, start off with two. Start slow, pace yourself. Don't feel like you have to do an hour's worth of exercise, and don't feel like you have to do as hard as you can the moment that you feel okay. I don't want you to go into a flare immediately. So don't do that. Pace yourself well. Learn to use tools that help you as far as supplements to support your body. Get your muscle balm if that helps. Definitely prepare to do the movements. Do a little bit, and then as that gets easier, slightly increase it. And if you ever go into a flare, give yourself a lot of grace. You may find that you lose a lot of progress if you experience a flare and try to resume after the flare is gone. You might go through deconditioning, and that's okay. Start where you are, do what you can, pace yourself, and take care of yourself, because there's only one you and you can't be replaced. So take care of you, because there are a lot of people who want you here and healthy and enjoying life as much as possible. So that's it. If you have any other questions, let me know. The description box will have lots and lots of details, along with a disclaimer telling you this is not medical advice, because it isn't. So that's it for today, and I will talk to you all soon. Bye bye.